Start. Okay, welcome students. We are on MST 017 course, that is Challenges to Sustainable Development, and one of the important challenge which we are going to talk today is about the threats. Different kinds of threats we are always encountering, and particularly today we will be talking about land degradation. And first of all, why land is important? Because we always think that water is important, food is important, but land also has a great significance, and this resource is one which is always overlooked, and it is deteriorated in quality since last few years. So first of all, it is important to see land as a natural resource, because as you all know, all types of economic activities, or you can say agricultural activities or industrial activities, everything takes place on land only. So land is a natural resource which supports different human activities what you are doing. The beginning of the agriculture, which started with the human civilization, everything started on land. That is the place where we do agriculture. Agriculture supports food availability. We are able to grow. Forest is an important resource, and that resource is on land. Then agriculture, as we talked about, then mining is a very important activity which takes place on land. Earth crust has lot of minerals in it, so we are taking those minerals. Different types of transportation activities, everything happens on land. We live on the land, we construct our houses on the land. Land is an important aspect of mobility, by transportation, by communication means. So this actually supports a wide range of human activities which we are doing today. So overlooking this resource, because the resource is losing not only in the quantity but also the quality of the resources. And you see, there are different types of functions. If you look at this, there are different types of functions being provided by the land. Because if we do agriculture, agriculture requires a entirely different kind of the soil texture, soil moisture. If it is a mining area, it requires entirely different type of the land surfaces. Along with that, the different industrial setups, they require different kind of land. So varying to that, it is important to see how do we classify this land. Is the land or of the same types, or it is the different types? So here on the screen you can see different categories of the land. These are the common categories of the land, because depending upon the output which we get from the land, we divide them into different parts. So first it is mentioned as the forest land, the different types of mountains, different types of forest in different geographical areas. Whether it is a mountainous area or whether it is a plain area, the vegetation which comprises of the forest, the different kinds of the forest. We have tropical forest, we have temperate forest, we have deciduous forest, montane forests, different types of forests. So number one way of classifying the land, we put it as the forest resources or the forest land. Then that is another one is the land which is not available for cultivation. There is a patch of land where which is totally barren, which you say as the wasteland, which doesn't support any cultivation, and that is the constructed land, what we say. And constructed land means where we have the buildings, where we have the residential, where we have the accommodation, the different types of the other constructions which takes place. So that is land which is ecologically not supporting any such function. It habitats the people, habitation is there, people are living, people are working, or we have certain types of other construction being done on the land. But this is one part, and another part is that maybe that land is not supportive, it is a wasteland as we have classified, or it is a barren land. So on that way we can say that this is the land which is not available for cultivation. Unfortunately, what is happening, if you see the two categories, the forest land is being converted nowadays because of our activities into the land which is not available for cultivation. So it is not supporting any of the ecological functions, and neither it is serving the purpose of agriculture. So we are using usage of the land for factors or the causes other than cultivation has been increasing because of urbanization and because of industrialization taking place. The third category of the land is uncultivated, and that includes your grazing lands.
Madam,
We
it's
have
like
a
a
large area of grazing land where,
like
yeah,
full
should I
scale karo.
stop here?
No, no, full karo. Slide full karo.
Okay, okay.
Like streaming with
I'll do
Facebook.
that. So this is we have uncultivated pastures where the grazing is taking place, and not so much, but there are certain countries where we have a large patches of the land which are used as the grasslands. They are the pastures. So those are meant for the grazing where the fodder availability is there. So that also includes uncultivated land, because that is not particularly cultivated as such, but that is a normal patch of the land which is used by the grazing animals who are grazing on that land. So this is, and in the ecological function of this particular patch of land will be different as compared to the forest land, because patches, forest is a continuous patch of land, but in the grazing pastures or the grazing lands, they grow along with the agricultural lands. Many of times we have seen that there is a agricultural land, and beyond, near to it, there are the pastures where the cattle are grazing. So that the documentation and the proper data availability of different land use classification is not so with us today. Then there is a fallow land. Many times it has been seen the people who do agriculture, they utilize the land for agriculture for 6 months, for 8 months, for 1 year, and then that land is kept barren because it is a seasonal unemployment taking place. If we are indulged in growing one or two types of crops during a season, many times it happens that the season is not supportive, that land is a fallow land. So we are not using that land. It is neither a forest land, but it is a barren for certain time of the year. So that also has a appreciable amount of the fallow land in our country, where we are growing selective crops. We are not growing throughout the year, but we have certain crops which only we are growing, and when the favorable climate, favorable temperatures are not there, we are not utilizing that land for any other purposes. So that is the fallow land. And then we have the net sown land. We have the agricultural land where agriculture is being done. So agricultural practices which are being carried out, that is the where we are putting all our technical aspects, where we are putting all our mechanisms of agriculture, whether it is the traditional agriculture or the modern agriculture, whether it is the subsistence agriculture, that area comes under the sown land, or which is known as the agricultural land. The problems associated with, as compared to land degradation, what we are talking today, the causes which we will see in the further slides, what we can say is that land degradation is affecting all these types of land use classifications. At one hand, the forest land, we are having deforestation, and because of deforestation, the land is degraded because of some other factor. In the agricultural land, we find that the land is degraded by the application of the chemical fertilizers, what we are doing. At some places, we find the overgrazing is being taking place. So different land uses which are being there, they are suffering from land degradation from one or the other causes. And there are certain causes which are common to all the types of land use categories which we have seen today. So what happens when land use practices are not suitable or unsustainable? There is a land degradation, there is a desertification, and there is a soil erosion. The three terms appear to be very similar and look alike in that sense that they are degrading the quality of the land. But however, there is a difference in the characteristics of the land which occurs, and more, you can say more susceptibility of the land will be different for desertification and soil erosion and land degradation. So let us see one by one, what does it mean. So when I talk about land degradation, it is decline in the quality of the land. Now land quality will be different for the forest land, will be different for the agricultural land or the pasture land. So when because of natural factors, because of man-made factors. When the quality of the land, when it is no longer supportive, when it is not fulfilling or not appropriate, the productivity is not appropriate, we call it that the land is degraded. The quality of the land has gone down. On the other hand, desertification means increase in the area of the deserts. Now, why there is an increase in that area of the deserts? Or you can say desert-like conditions if there are prolonged in any area. If we have scanty rainfall, if you have a sandy soil, if we have a high temperatures prevailing in any region because of maybe climate change or because of too much of urbanization, many factors are responsible, and because of that many factors, what is happening, that the increase in the desert area is more. We find that there are more area of the land in any country or region is under deserts nowadays. So that also is not a good thing, because deserts not most of the time support many activities, not only agriculture but the recreational activities, transportation activities. Many things are affected when the desert cover increases. And then we have the soil erosion. It's a very common term. When I'm talking about soil erosion, we mostly refer to the fact that the topmost fertile layer of the soil is removed. Now, here I'm concentrating more on the agricultural aspect. That is very clear that the soil erosion taking place, the topsoil is removed, that contains most of the nutrients, most of the fertile soil, I mean to say. So if that is degraded, there is a chances that the soil will be of the poorer quality, the nutrients are lost, the fertility of the soil is reduced, and therefore to do agriculture at that place, we need to give in more inputs. We need to provide artificial manures, we need to provide some other supplements so that we are able to restore the quality of the soil. So in a nutshell, we can say there are, if the land use practices are not suitable, they may cause the soil to be degraded or land to be degraded. They may increase the cover in the desert area, or in other words, they may accelerate the process of soil erosion, which normally also occurs. But nowadays, the process is more accelerated because of loosening of the soil. And the soil is let loose because of lack of trees, we can say, because of other factors, the wind speeds. We are going to see all these things in the coming sections. And there is also decline in the quality of land. What do we mean actually by the decline in the quality of land? There is a change in the biophysical environment. The biophysical, we very well know that the land supports a lot of biotic world also, lot of microorganisms, lot of activity is going on in the land, in the soil, we can say. And because of the interference of the chemicals and anthropogenic factors, there are quite a few chances that the land quality is degraded. And it has happened. Why? Because of the biophysical environment has been changed. Biotic is very clear: the soil texture, the soil moisture, the distance between the soil particles, soil aeration. All these factors are very important for keeping the soils intact. We have different kinds of soils. Different kinds of soils have different physical and chemical properties. Because of human induced changes, because of our faulty agricultural practices, because of our too much tillage of the soils, because of our growing, what we were seeing just now, that the constructed land, there is a change in the biophysical properties of the soil and the land. And there is a change, or you can say a disturbance in the properties of the land. A land is characterized by different physical, chemical, and the biological properties. We divide the land on the basis of the properties, and that is why we say that some areas have good quality soil, some areas have a you can say a moisture rich soil, some areas have a black soil. So how we have distributed these different kinds of soils? Why? Because there are certain properties of that land, and there is a chances that because of natural and more so by the man-made factors, the properties of the land gets distorted. And because of these changes, there is a potential of the land resource, be it for forest, it supports forest, it helps in the carbon fixation, It helps in maintaining the temperature. If it is an agriculture land, we know that there is a net yield which we expect from a patch of land. So there is a decrease in the capability of the land, whatever goods or ecological services. We can say goods if we are expecting some crop returns, we are we are practicing agriculture, or if it is an ecological services, as the example just now stated about the forest land. So if there is a change in the forest land, if there is a decrease in the forest land, the ecological functions of that land are disturbed, and this is happening in most of the cases. Why we say that deforestation leads to changes in the mountainous areas climate, because not only the decline in the forest cover is harmful regarding the benefits that we get from it, but there are a lot of ecological functions being performed by the forest in terms of maintaining the temperature, in terms of balancing your climate change, in terms of maintaining the biodiversity. These are some of the ecological services, and we are accountable for these ecological services, and ultimately it has happened because of the land there doesn't support the growth of the trees. If the land is not supportive, if the soil is let loose, there are chances in case of heavy rainfall, in case of strong winds, these trees are let loose, and therefore the ecological services get hampered, which we have been getting if the things have been normal. So these are some of the indirect causes, because land is a resource from which we do not get anything tangible. Water we know that we are getting for drinking, but land is a resource. The benefits of the land, we are not getting something which is tangible, which is direct, but most of it is we are getting indirectly, because it supports several other functions, as we have seen. So it supports your organisms who are living, it supports agriculture, it's that means it is a help, it is important for the food that you are eating. So now we see that what are the causes responsible for land degradation. Land degradation, as stated just now, there are physical and chemical processes, and there are major environmental processes. The way you practice agriculture, the way the trees are being cut, the way the chemicals have been applied in the soil, and the way we are doing construction, and the way we are utilizing the different land uses we have seen just now, they come under the category of physical and the chemical processes, because either we are adding something into the soil, or we are disturbing the geography, we are artificially, we are doing constructions, we are disturbing the natural terrain. Every area, every geographical location has a terrain. It may be a plateau, it may be a mountain, it may be a plain, and by our interference, what we are doing is that we are making cutting, and we are clearing the mountains, and we are making roads. So that definitely has an influence, and that has come under the physical influences. That is the physical processes we are taking place. And then there are environmental processes. Environmental processes refers to what is happening because of climate change, what is happening because of the natural disasters which are occurring more frequently and more dangerously than they were happening before. So there are more chances of these environmental disturbances, we can say. So in the proximity, if there are earthquakes, you can say, or you have a slight change taking place, you must be knowing about the ecological succession. That is the process of change in vegetation over several years of time. So that ecological succession, that also comes under environmental process. And that environmental process to take place requires the input from several other factors. So basically the quality of the land gets degraded, and these physical and chemical or the environmental processes may be natural. It is also possibility that naturally also the properties of the land get changed over the years, and more so today, in today's time, it is more happening because of the anthropogenic factors and behavioral issues. What we were saying, that how we are managing our land resources, how much output we are getting from the land, how we are making our land use categories function, what kind of land use planning do we have, how do we see the land resources, and how do we expect to get the returns out of the land resources. That also plays a very important role. If we consider land as a base from which we can wherever we want we can do the agriculture, wherever we want we can do the constructions. If we have to go in like that, definitely the land suffers, the quality of the land deteriorates. So the causes of the land degradation, mainly four causes are responsible. One is deforestation, cutting down of the trees. When the trees are cut down and some other constructions are taking place, whether it is a monoculture plantations if we are replacing, or we are doing some other kind of a construction, for example, road building, or we are having other kind of we have seen how the forests have, how the forests have been just cleared off from the mountainous regions and the other regions where we do not find any forest nowadays because of the construction work which is going on. Overgrazing is important factor. Agriculture has to be more because the population is more. To feed more mouths, it is important to bring more area, more land under agriculture, and the way we practice agriculture is not sustainable because it deprives the soil of the nutrients, of the most important components of the soil which are there. They are not there. And then the industries, because of lot of manufacturing activities being going on and more expected in the times to come, they lead to degradation of the land. Then there are different forms of we were seeing just now that they are actually different forms. So we have just gone through it, that how not only the soil erosion or desertification, but there are other parameters, like we can say the alkalinity of the soil, how it is important, how does it how the balance that comes under the chemical properties of the soil. In many cases where the soil is saline, and if we have over irrigation, there are chances that the soil suffers from salinity. The soil is saline, it is not able to support any vegetation, it is detrimental to the growth of the microbes also. Similarly, alkalinity of the soil. Similarly, the tillage, the way we prepare our field for the next crop. We witness many times in during this season, we see how the parali is being burnt. So that is a way of preparing your field for the next year. So is it injurious to the land? That is not really paid attention. So most of the times the steps which are taken, they are not sustainable, and the steps are mostly short lived. They are meant to address the immediate solutions, as compared to looking land as an asset that can be used to meet our requirements for the other times also. So here it is, soil erosion. We have seen that it is a process by which topsoil is detached from land and either washed away by water, ice, or sea waves, or blown away by wind. So there are a lot of things you can see here in this definition of soil erosion. The topsoil is removed, and because of which what is happening, the detachment, the removal, and the lower layers of the soil, they are not so nutrient rich. So our precious soils, and it takes millions of years to form an inch of soil. That also we must remember. And losing that soil through wind, water, other factors, the sediments are eroded, they settle down into the water bodies, they are blown away, and the soil is deprived of the most important nutrients which are very essential. So what are the factors which are responsible for soil erosion? Excessive rainfall, because the soil is let loose. The things are interrelated. One factor is related to other factor. If there are no trees, if the canopy is very less, the soil is let loose. And if there is a medium to heavy rainfall, then also the particles are let loose and they get carried away. Then topography, the type of the terrain. Why in mountainous areas we have landslides taking place? So the type of the topography of that region, that also determines if it is a mountainous area, if it is a hilly area, if it is a steep slopes. there are factors that soil erosion will be more prominently taking place at that place as compared to the other ones. The vegetation is very important. What kind of vegetation is there? How what kind of plants it is supporting? Then tillage, what we were discussing, that what are the ways we are using to prepare our soil or field for the next crop. That is why we say that crop rotation was considered to be a it is still followed, and where we, by way of our growing and by the way of selection of our crops, we are maintaining the fertility of the soil. So that is also a very important factor. The nature of the soil is very important. What kind of what is the texture, and what are the other parameters of the soil which are there. Just a soil moisture, what is the speed of the wind. So these are some of the factors, and if you look at these factors, you find that they appear to be normal natural factors, because rainfall, vegetation, nature of the soil, these are natural factors. It appears that they are the natural factors causing the soil erosion, but they have been aggregated and their properties change by human activities. As we have seen in several other cases, we are finding this thing. The topography also gets disturbed by human actions. The nature of the soil also gets disturbed by human action. So what we have been doing, wind speed of automatically it is more if there are less number of trees. So naturally the speed is more. So it is accelerated actually. The natural factors are also accelerated by the human activities. And the this is like desertification, and it means that what we were talking just now, that increase in the area under deserts. And in other words, we can say it is diminution or destruction of the biological property of the land. So naturally, why we are calling it as a biological property, because if it is a desert like conditions, if the desert area is increasing, the type of you can say the crops or the vegetation which it should be under normal circumstances is not happening. So the biological potential, not only in terms of the growth of the trees or the vegetation, but also in terms of the animals, in terms of the fauna which that particular area must be supporting. So it is important that in today's scenario, sustainable land management is done. So what is sustainable land management? Look at the land. There are several steps in it. We have to go for proper land use planning. And land use planning means dedicating the functions of the land and expecting the return. So there are certain procedures, and it is very essential that, as it happens with other natural resources, the land resources also should not be kept separate. The biodiversity, the water resources, and other components, they all function in an integrated manner. So our basic purpose of managing the land, as in today's scenario, we find that if we find that land must be used for grazing crops, then there should be a proper checklist done in times of the what crops will be. Because in many cases we have seen this thing, the regions which are water hard, which doesn't have water, and there we are having plantations like sugarcane which require a lot of water. So under these circumstances, we are straining the land which is already devoid of water, and we expect that at those places we have the crops which is more water demanding. So these type of actions are required to see that what kind of, and it requires inputs from a lot of people, not only the land use planners and policy makers, but also we have to see how biodiversity is linked. What is the vegetation of that area? What is the level of the groundwater? What are the water resources available in that area? What are the prospects of using the traditional water harvesting systems in that area, so that we can regenerate our land by these methods? So to have sustainable ecosystems and livelihood also, these things have to be looked into carefully, so that we have a sustainable land management. In other words, it is important to see how we are preserving and enhancing the productive capacities of the land. So land is a resource which supports several other resources, as has been stated time and again. And in many examples, we have seen that how badly the land is managed. Because not only about the crop selection, but also in the other words, we find that there is a faulty construction goes on, where we temporarily we think we are not able to see that how sustainable our measures are, and most of the times there is the you can say faulty decisions, and because of that the quality of the land gets disturbed because of our improper management. So another thing is that there is land use planning. We were talking about how land should be planned. So land use planning refers to decisions regarding the land, that how you have to use the land, allocate the land for agriculture, allocation of the land for forestry, allocation of the land for industrial purposes, and getting maximum benefit out of it. That is known as land use planning, which hardly occurs normally. And that is the assessment of the land performance is evaluation. So we see that how land is performing, not only in terms of the economic gains, but also in terms of the long-term benefits that we are going to have from a particular piece of land. And it is integrated land management, we have to see, where it is interdisciplinary approach which uses different uses of the land. We have to look into this aspect, because just like water, land also has a different altogether composition at different places. Different places it is performing different functions. It is affected by different factors, because the coastal regions you find that the land suffers from entirely different sequence as compared to the land which is in the desert areas. So we have to see different perspectives, and we have to identify the best combination of land management, whatever is available for a piece of land. So what does it mean? How we go for integrated land management? It provides opportunities to the stakeholders to identify the needs. Who are the stakeholders? The farmers are the stakeholders. We, the common people, are the stakeholders. The other industrialized are the stakeholders. The people who have been living in those areas are the stakeholders. So we have to see, we have to involve. It is a kind of a participatory mechanism to see how the stakeholders are also involved in making decisions regarding the land use planning. And we have to evaluate and potential land conditions in a given area. What is the potential of that land? What are the physical and the chemical properties of that land? How that land can be used further for transportation? What is the location of the land? Does it serve a purpose, or it can be helpful in the near future, that it will be a good way of meeting the connectivity issues of the people, or it is a secluded area where which can be utilized for agricultural purposes only, or it is a good mining area where we can get a lot of oil reserves or this thing. So what are the current prospects, and what are the future things we are expecting from that land? All these types of the you can say analysis must be made for going for integrated land management. And what are the special planning units, what we were discussing just now, that what do we expect, what are we in the near future, if there is an airport which is coming there in the nearby areas. So we have to think in those terms also. What is the commercial value of that land? What are the prospects of that land? So everything is connected. The economic aspect of the land is often seen, but most importantly, it doesn't happen in an integrated manner. And therefore there is a loss to the people also who live, and there is a loss to the ecology of that place also, because with all these things, if any land is let loose and land is taken from the poor farmers, and some construction is being done over there, and if the conditions are not sustainable, there are quite chances that in future uh, whatever we have thought as today, it may not be so sustainable in the years to come. So the land may be more prone to near any hazardous conditions, or it may be more prone to any natural disasters. So all these aspects of the land must be seen. Special planning, this is we put it as the special planning, and establish institutional, legislative, and the required infrastructure. That is also very essential to see that how there is a proper dialogue is essential between the different authorities who are dealing and who are addressing the issues of land management. So, but there are constraints. There's a lack of technology. Nowadays, we are using GIS, remote sensing to know the potentials of the land to know. But in many cases, the technology, either it is not there, or it is not accessible, or it is not readily available, or it is not available. So then there is a limited access to appropriate information. People don't know, land is not classified properly, land properties of the land are not known to the people in many cases. So there is a limited access. uh, Infrastructure, most of the times it is lacking. There is hardly a division which takes care of the land resources, specifically taking into considerations the different aspects that is essential. And unsustainable land use practices, we have seen time and again that how land is being used by different agents for agriculture, for industry, for forestry purposes. Because we see today there's a lot of initiatives being coming up in the area of social forestry, agroforestry, but many a times it is seen that it is unsustainable way of promoting these initiatives, and there are conflict between land use goals. This is very common. It has been seen that uh, the economists view land from a different perspective, environmentalists view land from different perspectives, engineers view land from different perspectives. So there is a stark difference between the goals. There is, and therefore it is impossible to arrive at a common solution. So that requires a comprehensive study of the land from various angles, not only the ecology, but the economics of that land, the social aspect of that land, the geography of that land, the geology of that land. So many things need to be considered before devising any, and any, you can say, any particular objective. It is important to see all these conflicting goals. Then only we can go for integrated land management. So what is the meaning of integrated is that so that we are able to meet several objectives in a sustainable manner from a same piece of land. That is actually the hidden thing behind the integrated land management. And there is a lack of cooperation and communication between the various agencies. So we conclude that land is a natural resource which supports various life forms. So land is not just the soil, but it also habitats the people. It also habitats the terrestrial animal, the aerial animals. It also supports the microorganisms which are invisible. So different life forms. I think we can say all life forms apart from the fact aquatic also we can leave behind. So all the types of land forms are supported by the land. So that is a very important thing. And the way we are managing the land, the way we are using the land for various purposes, it is creating one of the major threats. This is the main thing which we have started. We started with what are the threats of sustainable development. And one of the major threat of sustainable development is that we have not been able to manage the land resources in a sustainable manner. Because at one hand, we think that agriculture happens on land, but the same land near to that agriculture field, if we have any industry, so that is not at all a sustainable way of practicing agriculture or doing industrialization also. So we have to look it from that angle, that how we are managing the land. And that is why integrated land management must be in practice, must be explored more and more, so that we are able to derive better management and better resources from the same piece of land. And it is very obvious that land is not a land in isolation, but land is a water also beneath it. Land is a biodiversity also, just now we have seen. And if we talk about the social aspect, if we talk about the economics, we are also meeting all our requirements, not just the food, but other things also we are getting from the land only. So it helps to integrate different components for meeting the needs of the human beings. And there is a need to have information sharing between different stakeholders. whether it is the policy makers, whether it is the planners, whether it is the agriculturalists, economists, at different, at different levels, we have different people working on diverse issues. But when it comes to taking land as a whole, there is neither a common consensus. So information either is not available, information is not shared, and information is not accessible in many cases. So that is very important. Information plays a very important role. Information is power. We need to share information. And involvement, it is not just the people who are working on the land use issues, but who have been living. So active involvement, communities, social groups, all those who are involved in a piece of land have to be involved. Empowerment in decision making regarding their say on that particular land. That is, in rural areas, if we go and see, we find the different types of land uses being done, and they have been more sustainable than our ways what we do. So empowerment of the people is very essential. Facilitation in the through, you can say, technology facilitation is essential. Knowledge facilitation is essential. We have to give them tools, we have to equip them. So just as they take care of their water resources, they should be equipped and should know that the land is also theirs, and they should be empowered to see that how they are managing the land for this thing. So we can have discussion now. If we have any questions, we can take up. This was a just you can say a summary regarding orientation to you regarding what is a land resource, the different forms and different problems, particularly what we are facing with regards to land resources and importance of the integrated land management. I just tried to share few points along with you. So with this, may I expect students to say something?